Hello everybody, thanks for tuning in to today's video, or this afternoon's video I should say. I've already done a video looking at the snow and rain that's going on across the country at the moment. If you want to see that video, you can find it on my Snow Watch page. Just go up to the information bar and then click on videos. You'll see a menu, come down and go to Snow Watch, and you'll be able to see a video I did this morning about the snow and also the flooding down in the southwest on that page. This video I'm going to look at weather for the next week to 10 days. We've got some more cold weather coming up, bitterly cold weather coming up next week. Unusually cold, the bizarrely really cold March goes on. And I'm going to explain what's happening through the video. Now, if we go on video, I just want to mention the advertising. There'll usually be a video ad sitting underneath my video player here at GavsWeatherVids.com. Please play as you should be supporting GavsWeatherVids.com by doing that. So we're going to start off by looking at the Arctic Oscillation. Now, the Arctic Oscillation is reflecting the state of the North Pole, really. The Arctic Oscillation does not drive the weather. It's an index but reflects the state of the weather. So in the same way that the Financial Times Share Index is reflecting share prices, not driving it, so the Arctic Oscillation is reflecting the weather over the pole, or the climatic setup over the pole. It isn't a driver, but we can see that we've got an extremely negative Arctic Oscillation just at the moment. This black line here is where the Arctic Oscillation has been up to where it is now, starting off at the start of winter there, the 1st of December. We can see that through much of December it was negative, that Arctic Oscillation indicating blocking conditions over the pole. They went a bit positive for a time at the end of January, start of February, but since around the 10th of February we've been trending generally negative with the Arctic Oscillation, and we've gone off the cliff through the course of March, and this is where we are right now, just here. And actually the index is down to -6. Now previously, before this, the index only went down to -4, so they've actually had to extend the index down to -6, but basically we've gone off the scale in terms of the Arctic Oscillation, and that just indicates how blocked it is up over the pole, incredibly blocked, and that's the reason it's been so cold. The blocking area of high pressure sits over the Arctic, and the cold air bleeds out of the Arctic then into the mid-latitudes, and that's what's happened. And the reason it's happened, as I say, is because we've gone off the cliff in terms of blocking over the pole. Now, actually, the Arctic Oscillation is forecast to come back up through the latter stages of March and going on into the start of April. But it's going to take a long while to get from where we are at the moment. It's going to take a long while to get that Arctic Oscillation going back towards positive territory. Eventually, of course, it will come back up, but as I say, it will take a long time. This is the extent of the blocking over the North Pole today. Just look how much high pressure we've got over the pole, stretching from Siberia, Scandinavia, through the Arctic, through the pole, down into Greenland, into Canada, and then back into Siberia. The whole of the North Pole is in an incredibly blocked setup, and as I say, that pushes and forces out the cold air from the pole into the mid-latitudes. And have a look at the North Atlantic Oscillation. That's the same idea as the Arctic Oscillation. It's just looking at the North Atlantic setup. Again, it's not driving the North Atlantic setup. It's an index that reflects the North Atlantic setup. And we can see we're negative with the North Atlantic Oscillation. Not as negative as we are with the Arctic Oscillation, but we are negative, indicator that we've got high pressure around Iceland, lower pressure down towards the Azores. But we're not off the cliff like we are up in the North Pole. So for the next few days we're looking at a very cold period coming up. These are the GFS temperature ensembles in the upper atmosphere, but they're useful for down on the surface, and we can see we're going well below the red line. The red line, remember, is where we should be at the time of year. That's the seasonal average. All the members of the ensemble going well below that red line. Is going to be getting very cold again. And as we go out towards the start of April, we get a big split developing with these ensembles. Some of the members are going milder, some are staying very, very cold. So I wouldn't, even out to the start of April, I wouldn't pin too much on the fact that it's going to start warming up. We may stay cold even into the start of April. You wouldn't really want to create a forecast based on these ensembles because they are very, very split. Precipitation spikes showing that we've got a lot of precipitation coming up in the next day or so with these spikes here. That's going to be a mix of rain and snow. As I say, I've done a video about that already. Then we get a drier slot with this very cold spell coming up, but there will still be precipitation, indicating there could be snow showers at times. And then we start seeing more in way of precipitation coming up around Easter. Now that coincides, I say, with Easter. Whether that's rain, sleet or snow, we'll have to wait and see how that develops. The temperature anomalies for the next week. Very, very cold here. We're about 4 to 6 degrees below where we should be at this time of year. Look how cold it is over the continent. Many parts of Germany, back into Eastern Europe and Russia, seeing temperature anomalies 8 to 10 degrees below average. Bitterly cold, severely cold across much of the continent. You have to go right way down towards Turkey and Greece to find the temperature anomalies above average, but most of the continent firmly locked in the freezer for the next week. And if you have a look at the generic charts from the GFS model, it's hardly surprising, because we're going to have easterly winds screaming in throughout the next week. This is the chart for Monday the 25th. We'll have lost the weather fronts and the rains and snow by then, but we're bringing in this bitter cold easterly wind across the country. Tightly packed ice bars, will be very windy, really will feel very, very cold. And that easterly then just goes on throughout next week. So as we go through to Wednesday, we're still pulling in the winds from the east. If you follow the ice bars back, they're going right way back to Russia, originating from Siberia, that air, and it's pushing down across the continent and into the British Isles as well. Going through to Thursday and into Friday, which is Good Friday, remember, a weekday, it will be Good Friday. We're maintaining the cold weather, the high pressure, still in control over Scandinavia, stretching back towards Russia. Notice we're losing some of the blocking over the Arctic, though, so the blocking is beginning to break down a little bit. That'll be allowing that Arctic Oscillation Index to come back up, but we're still in a cold situation by Good Friday. If we go out towards next weekend, what we're starting to look at is these weather systems starting to move in for Easter. Now, what happens with this as these weather fronts come up against this cold air, it's difficult to say. We could repeat the scenario that's going on today with the mild air stalling and snow developing through the Easter weekend, or we could push the systems through and turn it much milder over Easter. We really are going to have to wait and see, I think, how things develop for the Easter weekend, but it certainly looks up to Good Friday as though we're staying cold. Upper air temperatures for the next week, very, very cold here across the continent and into the British Isles as well. Moving through into Tuesday, we see that cold air flooding in across the country. The -10 isotherm is back across most parts of the country through into the middle of next week on those easy winds. Very, very unusual this. See the -10 isotherm. Some winters in the 1990s, we never got the -10 isotherm really throughout the whole of the winter, so it's quite incredible really to see this coming in virtually across the whole country at the end of March. But there we are, the -10 isotherm is there covering the country through next week. Bitterly cold, severe frost, daytime temperatures struggling to get above freezing. It will be a very, very cold week for the time of year next week. Going up to next weekend, we're starting to see that mild air trying to push in from the Atlantic, but it's coming up against that cold air. And does it get through? Does it win the battle? Well, for the south it does. By Easter Monday, we're starting to see the south coming into milder upper air, but the cold air is very close still to Scotland. It wouldn't take much of an adjustment to keep it cold throughout the Easter weekend. Dew points reflecting humidity in the atmosphere. Very cold next week. Will be a bitterly cold week, and that really tells us how severe the frost is going to be. When those dew points are so far below freezing, there'll be some very severe frost for the time of year next week, damaging frost. So the wintry, freezing cold March will go on throughout next week. And for the temperatures next week, the minimum temperatures, hard frost on many nights next week, temperatures down to -5, -6. It's dependent on how much cloud clears. Those easy winds will be dragging in quite a lot of cloud with them, so that could hold temperatures up a little bit, but if the cloud breaks, then we really do get some very severe and damaging frost. And look how cold it is over the continent, -7, -8, -9 for much of Germany, -4s, -5s down into France as well. A really bitterly cold week for the whole of Europe next week, and Britain included. Finally, just having a very quick look at the ECMWF, see whether this is backing up the GFS. Well, all those charts were from the GFS. Well, this is the ECMWF chart for Monday, bringing in that bitterly cold easterly wind. And as we move out through next week, that easterly is maintained across the country. Quite tightly packed type bars. It'll be windy, a severe wind chill, bringing in these east winds. They could be bringing in snow showers. We have to watch out whether we get any troughs developing in the North Sea. No sign of it at the moment, but it could happen, which might enhance the snow showers in the east. And as we move out towards the Easter weekend, we're going to find that this low pressure that the GFS wants to turn it milder dives southwards to the south of the country, and we're locked in that very cold easterly wind throughout the weekend. Look at this, even up to Easter Monday, the ECMWF keeps it bitterly cold across the country, with the low pressure that wants to bring the milder air being pushed down towards Spain and France, not able to bring that milder air back. So the ECMWF will keep us locked into cold weather throughout the Easter weekend, and that takes us to the start of April. So really there's no sign of any definite warming coming up. Very cold next week, bitterly cold for the time of the year, unusually cold, and that could extend into Easter and the start of April as well. Very unusual weather conditions. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.